Hello guys, I am Dr. Muhammad Amjad Ali and I would like to talk about transgenic approaches to enhance nematode resistance in plants. So I am working as assistant professor at Department of Plant Pathology, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. So the phylum Nematoda, that is the second most diverse phylum after phylum Arthropoda. So if you see that there are different categories of the nematodes. Some nematodes are soil dwelling, that could be algivores, fungivores, bacteriivores, and the others are vertebrate parasites. Some live in the marine or freshwater reservoirs. Some are parasites of invertebrate, and the others 7% of the total phylum Nematoda are plant parasites. So if you see the percentage of plant parasitic nematodes, there are 4,300 species of plant parasitic nematodes, and most important of them are cis nematodes, which comprise Heterodera species and Globodera species, and the other main category is root node nematodes, which belong to Meladogynous species. So these both nematode categories are using a special kind of parasitism, which is called obligate endoparasitism, obligate endosedentary parasitism in the plants. So they cause huge losses in crop plants. For example, uh, Piri Abad et al. They reported that nematode can cause up to 150 billion US dollar losses uh, worldwide. So here you can see symptoms: the stunted growth, yellowing, very small tubers in case of sugar beets, yellowing and stunted growth, and necrosis in case of soybean. Similarly, root abbreviations and small plants, stunted plants in case of wheat, which are infected with the cereal cyst nematode Heterodera avini, and this is also the fields of cereal cyst nematode infected plants, showing some symptoms of stuntedness and also the yellowing of the plants in the patches. So as I mentioned before, cyst nematodes, they follow the obligate endoparasitism, and they are sedentary after a particular stage on the plants. This is a life cycle of the nematode. I would like to uh, build a bit of background before going into the detail of the main presentation. So these nematode hatch as second stage juveniles. From the eggs, they hatch as motile, moving, migratory second stage juvenile, which move towards the plant root, and they cause the they find the initial syncytial cell around the vascular bundles, and they develop these feeding sites around the vascular bundles. Actually, these are vascular cells of the vascular bundles. And here, if you see the lower portion of this life cycle, the female nematode develops into from J2 to J2 to adult female. So how it is done by the nematodes? Nematodes invade in the epidermis cells. They move into the cortical cells and they find these vascular bundles because all the foods for nutrients, inorganic nutrients and organic nutrients are passing through these vascular bundles. So nematode are looking for food because they are obligate parasites and they have to fetch the foods from the plants. and they find initial syncytial cells in which they release their enzymes. There are three kinds of enzymes which are released by the nematodes into the plant cells for the development of the feeding sites, which in case of cis nematodes are called syncytia. So how these feeding sites are developed? These feeding sites are developed by the secretions of the nematodes. Nematodes secrete these secretions into the initial syncytial cell, and these secretions also contain these cell wall degrading enzymes which cause localized cell wall degradation, and the adjacent cells fall into the initial syncytial cell, and a multinucleate cell is developed. And nematodes are continuously sucking the cell sap from these syncytial cells, which are enlarging in the size, and this also results in the hypertrophy and hyperplasia in the surrounding cells, and small knots. Here you can see this is a cartoon diagram, and here you can see real-time picture of the syncytium. Here this is stouting due to this hypertrophy and hyperplasia. This is syncytium. Syncytium is the feeding sites of the nematode. These are feeding cells or feeding sites from the feeding sites of the cis nematodes, from which the cis nematodes continuously suck the cell sap. And here you can see the syncytium is much larger than syncytium associated with the female nematode is much larger than the syncytium which is associated with the male nematode. Here I want to tell you that the J2 stage of these nematodes are hermaphrodite, and in case of favorable environment, for example, susceptible variety, they have the ability to develop more into the female nematodes. So how these plant parasitic nematodes are managed or controlled? What are different strategies which are used for the management of these nematodes? If we talk about cultural practices, if we talk about cultural practices, solarization, flooding, fallowing of the field, crop rotation, cover crops, and combination of these, some of these cultural practices are important management strategies when we talk about cultural methods. Similarly, utilization of host resistance, we can develop resistant varieties against different species of nematodes. For example, there are different genes, different QTLs which are available. In case of, for example, when we talk about serial cis nematode, we have CRE1, CRE2, CRE3, CRE4, and up to CRE9 different QTLs which have been identified and incorporated into the cereal crops, especially in wheat, against serial cis nematodes. Similarly, we have chemical control methods. We can use fumigants, organophosphates, carbamates, and some other chemicals which are being used as nematicides. However, as you know, these chemical means these could be hazardous for human health and also for the environment and non-target organisms and microbes in the soil. So another strategy is the biological antagonistic microorganisms like fungi and bacteria. So there are some examples like nematophagous fungi, Bacillomyces, and bacteria like Pasturia penetrans, Fusarium oxysporum strain, FO162, that also has been used in the research literature as very strong biocontrol agents of the nematodes. So, what are the prospects of transgenic resistance? As our title says, the transgenic approaches for enhancement of nematode resistance. So, there have a lot of data available in the literature. Uh, we have natural resistance genes. Similarly, we have these proteinase inhibitor coding genes, anti-nematode proteins, nematode chemodisruptive peptides, uh, RNAi targeting for the targeting of effector proteins of plant parasitic nematodes, and there is another strategy which will be discussed later. So, as far as the natural resistant genes are concerned, first we must have to identify these nature resistant genes. For example, when we talk about Cree locus, in case of cereal crops, we identify them and then we clone them into the cereal crops. We can clone them into the cereal crops for enhancement of nematode resistance. So in case of tomato, we have hero 8 gene that is that produces a R protein. So that was transferred to the susceptible tomato variety that lead to resistance against cyst nematodes. So similar construct was transferred to the potato that also uh, showed some contrasting effects and showed no resistance to the cyst nematodes. Similarly, the very first resistance, nematode resistance gene which was described was Maladovani incognita resistance gene 1.2. So MI stands for Maladovani incognita. This gene was identified in wild tomato varieties, and then that was transferred into cultivated tomato and eggplant for incorporation of resistance against Maladovani incognita. So here are different genes which have been successfully transferred, and they have shown very good promise for enhancement of the resistance in different crops, plant species. So these include MI 1.2, HS, that is for Shakti. Similarly, for Globodera pallida, GPA2 gene was transformed into the potato transgenic plants. Hero A, as I have been discussing this. Similarly, Globodera rostrifoliensis resistance gene 1, 4, that also has been transferred into the potato. Recently, some genes, for instance, resistance against Heredera glycinus 4, that has been transformed into soybean against Heredera glycinus and P-loci, as I have been discussing before. So similarly, the use of proteinase inhibitor proteins. So main mechanism of this proteinase inhibitor proteins is the proteases are released by the pathogens. Similarly, nematodes also release some proteases which are helpful for their compatible interaction with the plants. So for minimizing the effect of those proteases, we need protease inhibitor genes. So these protease inhibitors are molecules that inhibit the function of proteases released by the pathogens. Many naturally occurring protease inhibitors are proteins. Of course, they are enzymes and they are protein in nature. Uh, so they actually work in key interlock interaction as the figure. They block the active sites of the uh, actual enzymes or their substrates, and they stop the functioning of these proteases. So there are some examples, for example, coffee trypsin inhibitor, sweet fettuccine proteinase inhibitor, rice cystatines. Rice cystatines are very important proteinase inhibitors which have been largely used against plant parasitic nematodes. Similarly, chicken egg white cystatine and some other cystatine have been identified, and they have shown very good promise against the nematodes. So there are some examples. What are the sources of these proteinase inhibitors? For example, coffee trypsin inhibitor was identified in coffee and that from amplified from coffee and transferred into potato, and it showed very good resistance against Globodera pallida and Ladovani incognita in potato. There are some other examples of these proteinase inhibitors. For example, these proteinase inhibitor from maize. Recently, they have shown very good resistance in plantain and the Musa species. They have been antioxidant and they have reduced the reproductive success of the nematodes on the plants. So as I have told before, the rice statins, they have shown very good promise against a wide range of nematodes. So here you can see in different plant species, they have been transformed into potato, into rhabdopsis, rice, in bananas, lily, eggplant, and they have shown resistance against a wide variety of nematodes, mainly the cyst and root knot nematodes. So mainly they have led to the reduced reproductive success in the plant-specific nematodes on the host plants. So the other category of the transgenic strategy is the anti-nematode proteins, in which lectins, antibodies, and Bt proteins are the main sources of anti-nematode proteins. Lectins, they are actually carbohydrate binding glycoproteins. So these lectins comprise a heterogeneous and biochemically complex group of proteins. They act as seed storage proteins, communication molecules in rhizobial symbiosis, and they also act as enzyme modifiers. However, in case of plant-pathogen interactions, their main role is believed to with a pathogen recognition and defense response. So, how they work? Lectin toxicity is attributed to their ability to interfere with the intestinal function of the nematodes. So they are resistant to proteolysis in the gastrointestinal tracts of the nematodes. They bind with the glycans on the surface of the intestine, and they lead to a retarding development of the organism of the nematodes if the lectin is repeatedly consumed by the nematodes. So they will lead to the retarding of the intestine, and they will cause resistance in the host plants if they are expressing these lectins. The BT-cry proteins also have been used against nematodes. So first, these were used against C. elegans in vitro conditions, and they lead to retarded growth in C. elegans, and afterwards they were used against Melarvine incognita in in different crop plants, and they have shown good promise against Melarvine incognita. However, they are not reported causing resistance against systematic. So there is another category of the peptides which can repel the nematodes from the rhizosphere. So these nematodes, they are anti-invading. And these are anti-invading peptides. So most of these are peptides which have been studied in the literature, which has been worked out in the literature. They are synthetic. And these peptides bind and inhibit acetylcholine esterase. So this is an important enzyme that is significant, that has significant role in the chemoreception of the nematodes. These chemoreception reception in the nematodes is important because nematodes actually react to the chemical stimuli. So they move towards the host, for example, through the process of chemotaxis. And if uh, uh, their chemoreception is stopped, they cannot move, and their movement will be disoriented. So these peptides bind and inhibit acetylcholine, which is an important enzyme in the nematode for chemoreception, or they can bind to the nematode nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. So these are two targets of these peptides in the nematode nervous system. So this approach provides a very good approach, provided a very good approach for controlling potato cyst nematodes in potato. Similarly, they have been used also against Rhodolophus smilis, Hirschmaniella, and some other uh, nematodes, fishing larvae, and colonitas. So they have shown very good promise because they led to anti-invasion of the nematode into the plants. So here you can see that proteinase inhibitors have been combined with these chemodisruptive peptide to provide an anti-fident and anti-invasion strategy against many species of the nematodes. For example, these combinations have been transformed into potato, tomato, and plantain, and they have led to anti-fident and anti-root uh, invasion uh, strategies for the management of the nematodes in the plants. The other strategy which have been worked out from very long period is the RNAi. It actually RNA interference actually uh, target the effector proteins, which are important for the nematodes to establish feeding sites on the plants. And this have been largely worked out in the cyst nematodes and the root node nematodes. How it works? how it works in the plants. It is actually host-induced gene silencing because these plant-parasitic nematodes, they are obligate parasites, and we cannot feed these RNA, small, these double-stranded RNA. We cannot feed the nematodes with the double-stranded RNA. So what we do, we transform these double-stranded RNA coding sequences into the host plant, and from host plant, these double-stranded RNAs are picked by the nematodes. But before picking by the nematodes, plant disarect on the double-stranded RNA and cuts into small interfering RNAs. And these small interfering RNAs are picked by the nematodes, are ingested by the nematodes, and in the nematodes they bind with the RISC and machinery, and RISC machinery requires uh, these messenger RNAs which have been produced in the nematode, and make this double-stranded RNA, and then nematode itself finds this double-stranded RNA and degrade this messenger RNA of that particular effector protein, which was important for the establishment of the feeding sites, or for the compatible interaction between plants and nematodes. So another strategy that could be manipulated, that is the manipulation of expression of host genes, which are differentially regulated in the feeding sites of the nematodes. So I have been working a lot on this strategy, and my main of my doctorate work was on this strategy. This actually started from this transcriptome of syncytia. This transcriptome of syncytia induced by Halodera shakti, weed nematode Halodera shakti in Rhabdopsis roots. So PP and plant-parasitic nematodes are able to induce host genes which support their pathogenicity and survival on the host plants, which are important for the compatible interaction of nematodes with the plants. On the other hand, the nematodes are somehow very smart guys that they are able to downregulate the defense-related genes. So here we can see some genes, for example, an ATPase gene, which was one of the most upregulated genes in the Rhabdopsis transcriptome. So the other gene that was an ERF transcription factor, which was involved in the callose deposition and in the modulation of resistance in the Rhabdopsis against Halodera shakti. Similarly, a lipid and antimicrobial peptide lipid transfer protein that was also highly downregulated by the nematode. And there was another RBOH B gene that is actually involved in the production of reactive oxygen species, which are important mediator of resistance of host against pathogens. So what was the hypothesis? Hypothesis was that the nematodes are somehow able to downregulate the defense-related genes which are involved in the defense pathways of the plants. And if we can upregulate or overexpress those genes, we can enhance nematode resistance in plants. So here, if you see the work for this ATPase work here, it was induced in the feeding sites of the nematode in the syncytia, and we worked on it, and we found that this ATPase gene is involved in the establishment of the syncytium in the plants. And When we suppressed this ATPase gene, we suppressed or knocked out and knocked down this gene in Rhabdosis, there was a significant increase in the resistance against this nematode species in the Rhabdosis. So now I will mainly talk about this Warki genes, which are also mainly downregulated in the syncytia. So these Warki are actually these are transcription factors which are involved in the regulation of gene expression. So Warki transcription factors, these are among the largest families of transcription factors. They have this Warki DNA binding domain, and they bind actually with this W box in the promoter of the gene to regulate its expression. So these are the Volkis are central components of many aspects of innate immune system of the plants, including the microbe-triggered immunity, PAMP-triggered immunity, and effector-triggered immunity, and also in the they are main players in the systemic acquired resistance in the plants. So we studied the interaction, the Warki transcription factors in the transcriptome of these syncytia that were caused by Hereditary Shakti. And we found, through this microarray, we found 72 Warki genes in the Rhodopsis and 59 at that time, 59 Warki transcription factors was on the gene chip, asymmetric gene chips. And out of these 59 genes, almost half of the genes were significantly downregulated in syncytia. Most of them are reported to be involved in plant resistant responses against various pathogens and abiotic stresses. So here you see, we confirmed this downregulation. We confirmed this results of microarray with qPCR and promoter gust analysis of, for example, here we worked on Warki 33. That is main player in the PAM-triggered immunity. And here you can see that in case of 5 days post-methylated syncytia and 15 days post-methylated syncytia, this was downregulated up to around 80%. So we confirmed these results of qPCR and microarray by construction of these promoter gust lines. And here you can see at 24 hours post-inoculation, there is expression of this gene in the syncytia. However, this expression started downregulated, and in case of 15 DPI, we cannot see any blue color as compared to the control group. So Warki 33 was highly downregulated in syncytia caused by Hereditary Shakti in Rhabdosis. Similarly, we also confirmed the microarray data with the construction of promoter gust lines, and in all cases, these genes were highly downregulated in syncytia after inoculation with the nematodes. So then we characterize and we find out if we overexpress these genes which were downregulated in syncytia, we may enhance the resistance level of the plants against these nematodes. And then we also studied knockout mutants as well for confirmation. So we developed these overexpression lines of WRP33 using different promoters. This is constitutive promoter, can be promoter, and we also use these synthesia specific promoters uh, targeted uh, targeted expression of these WRP33 in the synthesia. For this, we use this PMR red vector that is actually PZRP drive vector, which have been used, and this has shown very good promise as we have selected these transgenic seeds instead of growing plants onto the MS media, and we just put the seed under the UV light due to this seed specific promoter and this fluorescent protein, DS-red protein. Uh, Fluorescent seeds can be picked and they can be put on the soil, and they can be grown by skipping this seed sterilization and putting on the MS media, then waiting for the transformant plants which are resistant to the antibiotic genes. So this was very good vector, plasmid vector, which was developed for this purpose. So here you see that in case of these overexpression lines, the number of nematodes and size of the nematodes were lower down. Mainly, if you see these female nematodes, there was significantly less number of nematodes up to, in case of CAMV promoter, up to 70%, and in case of Mayox PDF promoter, up to 20% reduction in the female nematodes, and in case of Mayox promoter, we found up to 30% reduction in the female nematodes. And in case of size of females and synthesia, in all cases, there was significant reduction in the sizes. And then uh, we also use this WRP33 mutant, and this mutant showed hyper susceptibility against the heterodyne shock type. As you can see, very high number of females and males. Similar results were shown by WRP6 and WRP11 and 17 mutants. We also worked out on the overexpression lines of MKK4, and we found that overexpression lines were resistant against heterodyne shock type. So we came out with very important results, and we solved some puzzles of the PTI and camlexin production pathway, and we found in this study that overexpression of MKK4 led to enhanced resistance against nematode. Similarly, overexpression of WRP33 led to enhanced resistance, and the mutant was hyper susceptible. And similarly, we also use these PAD3 mutants, camlexin deficient mutant, and we found these mutant hypersensitive. So we were able to uh, prove our hypothesis that if we overexpress these the genes which are expressed by the nematodes, we can enhance nematode resistance plants. So these are some highlights from the published work. This is about Warki. The beads is nematode heterodyne shock modulates expression of Warki transcription factor in Synthesia to favor its development. in a Rhodopsis roots that was published in the close one. Similarly, the other publication, the overexpression of transcription factor, we have 2.6 leads to enhanced callose deposition in Coccidia and enhanced resistance against weed nematode, Heteroshaftii, and Arabidopsis roots. So recently, we have published this work of LTP gene, which we have discussed previously, and RBHB as well. So this is some conclusion about Warki transcription factors. So what we can conclude from this presentation, we can conclude that plant parasitic nematodes are major problem in agriculture around the globe, mainly in the developing countries. Our gene-based resistance can be exploited in traditional breeding programs. Transgenic approaches hold very good promise, and the best described being the expression of proteinase inhibitors to disrupt the nematode digestion system. Similarly, chemodisruption of the nematodes can be done using these chemodisruptive peptides, which uh, may lead to anti-invasion strategy, and nematode cannot enter into the root of the plants, and they are repelled out from the rhizosphere. The emergent technology of RNAi, although that is not emerging now, we can say that we can use, for example, CRISPR-Cas technology or some other genome editing technologies for the development of resistant plants against the nematodes. Similarly, we can use this pyrimidine or stack technologies by incorporating different genes in a single plant. For example, we can incorporate R genes, or we can incorporate R gene in combination with proteinase inhibitor, in combination with these chemodisruptive peptides, and we can also uh, silence some effector proteins in the plants, in the nematodes, excuse me, in the nematodes to enhance or to enable the plants for a complete resistance against plant parasitic nematodes. So thank you very much. If you have any question about this presentation, you may ask it. I am available. Thank you very much.